Sephora stores are everywhere you are. So just pop in. When you need a brown lip to match your 90s playlist. A confidence boost before your interview? Or a last-minute gift for mom's birthday. There's always a Sephora near you. Just pop in. Use our store locator to find your local Sephora or Sephora at Kohl's.
Ah yes, the magnificent Trolley Sour Bright Crawler, also known as Trollicus brightolus. The worm's captivating neon colour makes it an easy, gummy prey.
Trolley!
It's a surprisingly sour, invitingly chewy, staggeringly snackable species unlike anything else found on this planet.
Eat me!
Delicious. Visit Trolley.com to shop now.
Trolley, eat me!
I've got a lot of grandbabies, like a lot. And when it comes to finding a gift for each of them, it could add up. But this year, while I was making my way through Walmart, I realized I don't have to spend a lot to get the gifts they'll love.
An OPI mini mani set! I'm gonna do so much nail art.
Oh, yeah! A Lego set! My own Awala water bottle!
Ooh, and that's just half of them.
Shop great gifts they're sure to love for $25 and under at Walmart.
Welcome, everyone, to the G-Note Podcast. I am your host, Jason Spicy G. Goldman, and I'm a Grammy-winning record producer, arranger, and musician. I've been a music professor at USC for over 22 years, and I am most known for writing and producing music for the iconic Michael Bublé over the past 20 years. This is a podcast for musicians who want advice and strategies on navigating the music industry. If you're not a musician but a music fan, I promise there is plenty in here for you as well. On this pod, we talk all things music. On today's pod, we are talking about to tune or not to tune. That is the question. Let's go. All right, everyone, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in once again. Today we are talking about, as I mentioned, to tune or not to tune. And we are discussing tuning software and how it actually works. There is a lot of confusion about the term Autotune. People think that everything is just Autotune, but honestly, this is just not the case. First, everyone should know Autotune is actually a piece of software that was made by a company called Antares back in 1997. Now, prior to 1997, most people would do it the old school way, right? We would just keep recording until the person or the artist got it right, and then we would just comp a vocal. Comping a vocal, by the way, is short for compositing in a nutshell. It is basically recording a bunch of takes of the same phrase and selecting the best parts of the phrase and inserting them into the main comp. And that would be the one that you hear on the recording. Let me show you an example of comping. Here are 3 takes of a phrase. It's a part of a verse for a song that I did about 10 years ago. And you'll hear that when I play a little bit of the production of it also. It definitely sounds 10 years ago. And typically I'll have artists do anywhere from 3 to 5 takes of a section. Then what I'll do with the artist is we'll listen back and we'll find what we think are the best takes. So what you will notice immediately is some of the takes have serious intonation issues, which basically means she sounds out of tune. When we are comping, we are listening for tuning issues, of course, but more importantly, I'm listening for the feel and the time, how it fits in with the track and what is, the overall vibe of it. Because we can fix most tuning issues. So let me show you. Here are 3 different takes. Take one.
I say I'm so over you. It took you 3 months to do what you should have done before.
Take two.
I say I'm so over you. It took you 3 months to do what you should have done before.
Take three.
I say I'm so over you. It took you 3 months to do what you should have done before.
Yeah, so you can hear in the first take that I played, it's pretty out of tune. I mean, I would say really out of tune. And you can hear the difference really in the 3 takes, right? By the time we got to the third take, it sounded a lot better. So, for example, we ended up using take 3 as part of our comp. For another phrase of the verse, we ended up using take 1, and then maybe we took a couple of words from take 2 that sounded better. So we can combine all of these takes, and we combine and make a master comp. All right, back to the tuning. Today, there are pretty much 2 main tuning programs that people use to tune vocals or anything really. And they are Autotune and another program which is probably more often used, which is called Melodyne. And both programs essentially do the same thing. However, most people, like I said, prefer Melodyne for like light tuning or for songs that are very exposed, as it tends to do a better job of not leaving many digital artifacts, in the tune version. So this is, again, basically places where you'd hear like that computerized kind of sound. A side note, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, you can use the tuning programs pretty much on anything. So let's say you were playing like a guitar thing and you put the tuning program on it and there was a note out of tune on the guitar. We could actually change that out of tune note and make it in tune. So it's actually pretty cool the way that you can do and utilize the software. By the way, do you guys know out there that almost every single vocal you hear, especially in pop music, is tuned, like 99.99%. You may know some songs where you can tell, and honestly, nowadays, that's pretty much part of the sound, which is the quote-unquote auto-tune sound. Tuning was originally meant for fixing pitches, but now it has actually become part of that pop sound, that pop vocal sound. So here's an example of when people say, "Oh, that's auto-tune. That's been auto-tune." So let's take a quick listen.
Waiting around's not my thing. I need a boy who can bring me so much more than a fling. I'm so glad that we're not anymore.
Okay, so that's definitely an auto-tune sound, right? T-Pain, the rapper, made this famous. Like, that was his thing, as did Cher on Do You Believe in Life After Love? Like, that was really one of the first major uses of auto-tune, like, where it's more of like an effect as opposed to just a tuning program, because it's supposed to sound very computerized. And by the way, both of these singers actually can sing really well, but they chose to use this sound as the vibe for what they were trying to create. T-Pain was exclusively this auto-tune sound. And the reason auto-tune sounds the way it does, just for all of you out there who aren't really sure, it's basically because the software knows where the exact notes are supposed to be, the exact frequency, the exact notes. And basically what we tell the computer or tell auto-tune is to, whatever the note the vocalist is singing, you need to pull it immediately up to the correct note. Now, that may require a huge pitch correction. So when you hear this sound, it's typically when the vocal is really out of tune and the program is smashing the note so fast to where it should be that you hear this artifacty, digitized version of the song. And so you hear all of those slides and digital effects kind of happening. And like I said, that's become part of, today, the pop sound, if you will. Here is the same example of the verse from the same tune, but this time I melodined it as opposed to using autotune. So again, what you do with Autotune is you set it for something and you let it go, and it looks ahead. So it sees, or it hears basically, or reading all of the material prior to us hearing it and digitizing it. So with Melodyne, the vocalist records their vocal. I go in manually and tune the things to the correct notes or close to the correct notes to make it sound more in tune. But it doesn't necessarily have those artifacts in it. So here you go.
Waiting around's not my thing. I need a boy who can bring me so much more than a fling. I'm so glad that we're not anymore.
So you can see this one still has a slight auto-tuney thing about it, mostly because this vocal was, quite frankly, very out of tune. However, this doesn't sound much like a computer like the first one I played at all. I can still hear some slight digital artifacts, but it's mostly a clean vocal. And when I lay it into the track, you're going to barely notice that sound. It's not perfect, but that was just literally my first pass at just doing it real quickly. While I had done this song, like I said, 10 years ago, I took all the tuning stuff off of the original that I did and then just retuned it quickly because I did want you to hear what it would sound like if I just did like a quick one, first time, just going real quick through it and tuning it. But I think overall, the idea that probably many of you, or the question that many of you may have on your mind is, should you use it or not? And my easy answer is absolutely. Remember, once you release something into the world, that's it. And you want the best version of you that you can put out. If you're doing pop music, that's easy. It's a given, right? This is part of the sound now. But if you're doing jazz or a different style of music that might have like more of an exposed vocal, you may be very hesitant. You may think to yourself, right, the word that is always prevalent in this type of music is always like, oh, I want an organic sound. And I understand the hesitation. I really do. But again, you want the best version of you. It will live forever. No one's going to be like, oh, yeah, but at least it sounded organic and natural. No one's going to think that in their head. They won't even know you or who you are. Imagine if they're just listening on the radio or on a playlist and all of a sudden this song comes up. They're not going to know the backstory. So you want the best version of you. If you are already a good singer, this will only enhance what you're doing. You may need very little tuning, but even for incredible singers, I still make sure things are sounding fantastic. By the way, I'm not saying you should tune the crap out of everything and take out all of the flavor and life, right? Because that's what the main worry is all the time, is that you're going to take out the flavor and the life of the recording. But slight tuning, again, by someone who can do this well, is barely even noticeable and can really make all the difference in the world. Honestly, I can only think of one vocalist where I didn't tune a couple of songs. And that is, of course, from Michael Bublé. And I remember him wanting to do a couple of songs live with like a jazz trio in the same room. So all four of them, piano, bass, drums, and him, were in the same room. If this happens, there's nothing really that you can do on the tuning side, because you're really, anytime you tune or try to attempt to tune anything, you're going to shift the pitches of the other instruments in the room. And you wouldn't want to do that. So if you do something live like this, you can't really tune it. And so, for example, on this particular thing that I was just telling you about, Bublé, he did it the old school way. He took 3 to 4 takes, and then he just literally picked a full, complete take, and that was it. Because I don't even think they did that to a click track, to be honest with you, if I can recall correctly. By the way, for those who aren't sure, a click track is like a metronome in your ear while the musicians are recording. The click track actually makes it easy when you want to punch in and out of a recording. So, like, for example, let's say I sang a phrase wrong. If it was done to a click track, or, a metronome, basically, we can go back, start playing the track, and then I can start singing, and then I hit the punch in the computer, and it's almost like I didn't skip a beat and everything sounds like it should. That being said, if you don't do it with a click track, you pretty much have to just select the take that you want. Again, if you're an engineer listening to this, you know that there's some other slight ways that we can manipulate it with punching in and out. But in general, that's really what we're talking about. Just old school way, 3 to 4 takes if you are in the same room with other people. One last little note here. Some people cannot sing very well. as we all know. And we are not all blessed with an incredible vocal prowess. Lord knows I am definitely not one of those people that can sing. But honestly, some people sound really good on recording and really bad live. Here is the chorus of the song that I've been kind of showing you throughout this episode. This particular vocalist, who I honestly don't even remember, she didn't write the song. I remember I wrote the song with one other person, I think one or two other people actually, and we just found a vocalist and paid a vocalist to do it. And I remember her coming in, and I remember her not being a strong vocalist. And I also remember it taking me a while to tune her vocals. However, in the end, her voice sounds really good tuned and in the song. Check it out.
Waiting around, it's not my thing. I need a boy who can bring me so much more than fling. I'm so glad that we're not anymore.
And that is what really good tuning can do for a vocalist that is not very strong. So I do recommend that you do it. That's my final kind of advice for everyone. You should choose to do it. Just make sure you're choosing people that really understand what you're going for with the tuning. You may want just some slight tuning, or maybe you want that digitized sound, but that's something you should explain to your producer and the engineer that is working on your recording. Folks, that is all the time we have for today's episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this pod so you can stay up to date with new shows, giveaways, and more importantly, the concerts. Folks, we are playing at the Vibrato in December, and you should come to our holiday show because it is going to be incredible. You can follow me on Instagram at SpicyGMusic, or check out my website, jasongoldmanmusic.com, to see what projects I'm currently working on and to see when I'll be performing next. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Much love.